That's a really neat room you've got there. So you are in Louisiana this evening?
I'm in Louisiana this evening. Yeah, I leave tomorrow, so this was a good timing. But yeah, had some gigs here. Yeah, this room is an eclectic version of stuff where I actually teach a little bit of some poor unsuspecting souls, ear training and improv, and do a little writing. So yeah, it's a little maddening,
So
but
that's the room where all the creativity is being manufactured.
mostly, I think I have a piano and a keyboard in every room of our house. So actually, it's kind of everywhere. You know,
So whenever
it's
it hits you, it's like I'm getting to the keyboard right now.
right. It's in every room. My husband's kind of resigned. That's just the way it is. Furniture is secondary. Keyboards and pianos are essential.
So what does your story start? You were in the financial sector, banking, and
Uh,
you always seem to have the knack for music. So when did this
well,
become full time?
well, I guess I need to kind of go back and restate why. My parents are full-time musicians. My father was one of the original owners of Malaco recording studios out of Jackson, Mississippi, and my mom is a jazz crooner who's performed professionally since about 11. Like they would, like
Mm.
seriously, they would whisk her out of school and put her on a stage at the television show in front of a big orchestra. So I had no chance other than to be a musician in my household. But my father was very pretty vocal about having a good solid academic background as well, just not have all your eggs in one basket, but still continue your music pursuits. So my brother and I, he's a musician as well, he's a lawyer, and then I was a banker in the financial industry, but I've always played music and always have never let that go. But as of late, I finally have so many musical collaborations that I'm doing with other folks, and just kind of at a time in my life where I don't want to not be able to get in the studio and record original music that I'm proud at this stage of the game. So now I'm a full time musician.
Oh, that's gotta feel so good. Was it a little nerve-wracking at first, saying, "Oh, I'm going to take this on full time"? Music's not that easy, and banking
It,
is.
I think I kind of said, I think I was living the kind of like Mrs. Doubtfire in the that movie. That was me, and
Yeah.
changing in the phone booth from one setting to the other, and so I think I lived that life for a while. And but yeah, when it kind of certain things just kind of pointed me in the right direction that music was kind of where my heart was, and I knew that. So I don't think it actually was nerve wracking. I think it was actually a relief that I was
Yeah.
finally able to immerse myself and not be so torn during the day. Not going on a break or go to the green room for a band and approve a wire for $30 million wire. That was nerve wracking. So the
Yeah,
opposite has actually been quite nice.
that's really awesome. So, and now you've been racking up some recording. So, how much have you recorded now?
Well, we've just done some live recordings of some shows, but we're actually scheduled to go into the studio using Dockside, which is a legendary studio in our area. It's a great place, and so we're doing that at the end of October, and I'll be featuring a lot of musicians. Some core musicians that I collaborate with. I play with the Blue Monday All Stars, we have a lot of Grammy winning folks on that stage, and so I'll be fortunate enough to have them in my company for laying down some New Orleans blues-ish uh, tunes that I've written, and then but for some of the more progressive jazz tunes that I'll probably use some slightly different musicians that um, where that's their specialty, and I'm privileged to be able to play with them as well, all the time. So there's a lot of collaboration that I feel will be on this specific CD or collection of songs.
Yeah, on your website, you got some really great clips up on there. If you would let everybody know where we can see your website, and you got a media page there with some clips, and it's really nice stuff.
Thank you. It's JillButlerJazz.com is the actual website. And the media clips are evolving. I mean, there are some that are just some random clips of different, shows I've done with other people. And then again, we've had some clips when I perform some original material. But we'll be adding more, especially from the studio session, as we've can kind of capture some live moments with those musicians in action. I think studio session videos, I think, are quite interesting because you capture the good, the bad, and the snarky expression, or the glimmer in the eye, like we did that right.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of that will have a videographer to be able to kind of capture the spontaneity. But it's really been a fun journey for me to write. I've always written music, but to actually not just start a piece, but finish it, or determine when is it finished and does it have enough complexity. And I plan on doing some solo piano with maybe an occasional other instrumental on a few of those pieces that are more suitable for that, more truly acoustic, really vulnerable pieces for me, but in a good way.
So you do everything? You are words and music. You're able to do both.
Able to do what? I'm sorry, do both.
You're able to do both. You do words and music. You're a lyricist, and you come up with the melodies as well.
Yes, I think the majority of what I've written is they're instrumental only, kind of in a Bill Evans, Herbie Hancock, inspired, or Joey Alexander, my latest hero genre. So that really speaks to me, because I feel like words for some songs just are not necessary. And matter of fact, one of my tunes is called Unspoken. And it's about the relationship between my father and myself, because usually I live in Pensacola. And when I go to visit, he has an amazing, they squoze a concert grand in a small space. So you see it right when you walk through the door, but usually we don't even say hello. We just sit down and play for hours.
Oh,
and so there's an unspoken language. And then eventually we might say, oh, hi, how are you? But there's between my father and I, there's just amazing magic that occurs. So there are a lot of instrumentals that I felt did not need lyrics. It would almost lessen the impact of the chord voicings and the melody in those songs. But a few others I've written do have lyrics. So there was an artist, Carol Fran, that I had the privilege of playing for her in her last decade of life. She recently passed away about a year ago. She's a legendary blues performer, performed all over the world. And she was a spitfire. And I wrote a song called Miss C's Do Me Right Blues, about, don't bring me flowers when I'm gone, bring them when I'm awake. Better do right.
Yeah, that's on your page.
Some of those were deserving.
Yeah, it's really nice. I saw that on the page today.
Yeah, she's a tough lady to work with, but we hit it off. There was something about her that we really clicked.
Yeah, very nice. I think you were saying on the clip that she hadn't heard it yet when you were performing that.
Well, and the band hadn't either, and that's a true story.
They were geniuses, though. Yeah, you have great musicians around you. Some great sax performances as well. I really, really enjoyed on that song "Eventide."
Thank you for listening to that. Well, Ron, fortunate that I can collaborate with Ron Eads, who's actually the original Muscle Shoals horn section lead. It was a trio of men that were hired on 200 plus hits, and he's performed with Elton John, Leonard Skinner, toured with. I mean, he's been on so many original songs he can't even remember them all. And so he's a sax player that I get to play with all the time. We're very spoiled here in South Louisiana. Very spoiled.
Oh, sure.
So many great musicians. But a lot of times when playing with Ron, I'll say, Ron, did you play on this original? It's like, yeah, I think I did. He's not even sure. I can't remember. But he's amazing. I just can look at him and he just takes off like a rocket. So,
yeah. I mean, to be that gifted and you can basically do that in your sleep. I'm really impressed with sax players. They just make it seem so effortless, but wow.
Yeah.
What a nice addition to any song.
True. So, I learned from every time we collaborate, together, there's always, to me, that unspoken language between musicians. They'll pass a little musical message your way, and if you pick it up, you got to do something with it before you pass it back. Some musicians don't pick it up at all, or they don't pick up what I threw out there, but that's always the challenge. Like, did they hear what I just did? And then you make it into something else, and just, that's the fun dodgeball aspect of music.
Your husband got you to be in South Louisiana. Now, how do you say it? Because then everywhere there's a Lafayette. It's like it's pronounced different in every state, wherever those is.
Right. And I think if you don't pay attention to the state, you might end up in Indiana, by accident on a flight, not careful. It's pronounced Lafayette. So you kind of emphasize the la part of it, but it's a very Acadian pocket of the world, kind of pretty internationally aware relative, to the rest of the South. But yes, that was, my husband's the instigator for that. I was working for one of the huge Big 8 consulting firms out of Dallas. I'm a University of Texas graduate, and Finance we had the job flying everywhere and consulting.
Yeah, Austin is that little bastion in Texas where all the creativity, and it's like so unlike a lot of the other parts of Texas.
Unreal, yeah. I wish a lot of the graduates from University of Texas, we all wanted to stay in Austin, but it hadn't really become the Austin that it is today at that time. But so we all picked other destinations. But I was working, around the clock, flying everywhere, and quality of life kind of hard, as a newlywed. So we moved to Louisiana. My husband's in the radio business, and there was an opportunity for him that made sense in management as well as on air talent. So I picked quality of life. So
it's all around you, the music and having the DJ in the house. That's really just
he's funny almost all of the time. I've been married for 3 decades now. And he's still funny. So I guess awesome. That's good. Yeah. He does a lot of character voices. So it's, it's like, who are you today?
Oh, I love that. I love impressionists. Yeah. It's fun. It's
He's got a very different, I'm very left brained and right brained at the same time. And he's clearly the one that's only creative, which I think is the right brain, only creative. Yeah.
That's great.
Not much practicality.
So growing up in Mississippi, it was all around you music. You just took on keyboard, piano very, very young.
I did, probably as soon as I could reach the piano, about 4 years old, maybe younger. I think I watched my father play, and I did my best to learn how. And I did have some classical lessons early on, fortunately, from this amazing lady who was a great improviser and had an excellent ear. And so she recognized in me that I had a very good ear. And so she did not discourage it like some music teachers do. She actually encouraged it and had me off, doing all like, here, let's play Do You Know the Muffin Man, but play it 8 different ways. Like, okay, I got that. And so at an early age, that clicked with me. And so I learned some dexterity with classical piano, being able to play the Bach and Chopin, finger positions. But then I took off completely in a different direction in the jazz and blues arena of listening by ear and then coming up with my own voicings, but still with a knowledge of theory. I don't think you can have an appreciation of music without having some architectural substance knowledge of knowing what the song, like when it departs off the page and then when it comes back, and being able to teach that to others of an A section, B section, and oh wait, we just modulated to different key, kind of thing. And then now we're back home again. So I think when I play music, like I'm in a house, I'm in this room, and I think very compartmentalized from some of that theory knowledge.
So you learned to read music very young. Was that something you learned in regular school?
I did, but reading was more of a means so that I could quickly memorize and then not have to read it again. So for me, but for some others, reading is an essential item, and but to me, it was a frustration. I would do it. And for the classical composers, I would, out of respect, it's got to be note for note. But I did have some judges when I would be in competitions to say, well, I really loved your interpretation of your Bach piece, or Bach would have loved your interpretation. Quite interesting, kind of a backhanded compliment. Like, you did that really well, even though it really wasn't what you're supposed to do. So, I think I've always been rebellious as a reader and trying to put my own personal spin. I just have a hard time mentally not going there. I feel like that's what my gift is. And I can do it. Otherwise, I can stay between the lines, but I feel like my gift is to be able to hear something a little different. And even on a cover tune, try to personalize it. That's just where my passion resides musically.
Who did you listen to growing up, at least pop wise? And you were into a lot of jazz musicians as well, but
a lot of jazz
musicians and more.
Yeah, I think it was always there was jazz everywhere playing in my house all the time. Pop wise, a lot of Steely Dan, a lot of Michael McDonald, Blue Eyed Soul influence. Toto, great studio musicians, James Taylor. That whole segment for sure was very influential to me. So I guess a lot of male performers.
That's great. I noticed that you had covered Tracy Chapman. I came across that clip. So
yeah. I think anything that has some grit to it. And especially as I've gotten more immersed into the Louisiana music scene, Marsha Ball is a huge influence. She travels around the globe, but she's very uninhibited about her style and unapologetic about her style. And it's a lot of the Professor Longhair, New Orleans jazz influence mixed in with just that Louisiana gritty, crunchy vibe. And so there's also Mark Broussard is a local hero here who travels the globe, and it's that same earthiness that I try to bring out, and when I'm performing. And so at least that speaks to me. But I'm sure there are other performers that to me, like musically, Dave Grusin, David Benoit, Bob James, Bill Evans, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, all of that set. Vince Guaraldi. I think one of the very first songs I learned to play by ear was the Linus and Lucy theme song from Peanuts. I think I was about 7, and it has like that bass line that is unforgiving. You got to keep it rolling, and I just loved all that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like comfort food, that music. I love that. Yeah, especially that one. But I like your cover of Minute by Minute to Michael McDonald. It brings me back to that time in the 70s, the late 70s. And it's just very, very nice cover. And I know she did that. You mash it up right after your own take on the Beatles' Blackbird. So that's very nice.
That was probably spontaneous. Some of that I don't think was very planned. But yeah, that Blackbird's just an especially significant song to me. Just so I think everybody has a journey just when we think somebody has it really easy or their path might be just smooth sailing, we find out, hey, it wasn't. They had some things to overcome and just ways to remember that they can fly. And so I think that song just really speaks to me. Just when you think you're kind of kicked down, you might have a broken wing or an injured wing. It's like, just keep moving and meet your creator halfway and should do something brave, and you'll take back off again. So Blackbird is kind of that epiphany song to me. I guess one of many, but especially that song.
Yeah, I like seeing an artist taking that and you're really making it your own, because you just think Blackbird's just the acoustic guitar, but doing it through keyboard and doing your interpretation of it, you really made it your own.
Thank you. And I think I hear things sometimes in what I call a really modal way, like that interval of the fourths, of open voicing fourths and harmonies and not trying to throw too many other notes in there speaks to me as a musician. I don't know. I guess we just, if we were to all kind of walk around life, we must have our theme song that follows us,
Yeah.
of the sounds that we kind of emulate to. And those are some of the sounds that I feel maybe are the most tribal for me. So I'd like to try to bring those out in ballads, especially.
Yeah,
But
very well done. We're both here because of COVID. I mean, I'm doing this podcast. This was born out of COVID and you leaving your career and all that. We wouldn't be doing this without COVID. Did a lot of work that you've been writing, did that come out of the pandemic?
It actually did. Well, and I had announced my, early retirement from the bank, and just was running 12 hours a day prior to that point. And then, had some reasons to kind of slow down, and then you're like, the world stopped. So yeah, it was to me, I mean, initially was delighted that there was some times very sad for the state of our world and the scariness of a virus of that magnitude, but very appreciative of the solitude and a chance to get to write without having to leave the house to do other things right away. So I know so many people posted playing music, including Michael McDonald would play for an hour, and there was an artist, Fred Hirsch, out of New York City, that I think he said, well, I'm going to play an hour every day. And then week by week, I think he got a little fatigued, and then it became a little more scarce. I think everybody was trying so hard to contribute in a joyful way to keep the joy component there, because I think it's such an essential element. Music is, and visual art, it's an essential element for us to stay alive, to have that feed our soul, feed our eyes, feed our heart, feed our energy. So without it, it feels out of balance. So a lot of the musicians, we all felt the need to either express ourselves or hear from others play. And I would seek it out. So I enjoyed being able to pull up Fred Hirsch's site, or any other artist. Emmett Cohen is another one out of New York City who was great about featuring artists from his living room. And it was just a real pleasure. It's like, wow, that's a front row seat that I've never had, to an Emmett living room concert. So I thought it was a very vulnerable but priceless time.
Yeah, I was amazed. Peter Frampton did some stuff from his living room. It was just so amazing. It's just wonderful stuff. So you got out, and now you've been touring, and you're just doing it all, it sounds like, being a wife and a mother and all of that. So how does that jive with personal and family life?
Well, unfortunately, my husband and I, we have 2 children that are adults now, and so they're both have graduated from college and are kind of on in their own respective careers. So we still try to see them as much as possible, but I'm not the day-to-day mom of small children, so that's been a different phase of our lives in that respect. So that's also provided a little more freedom to me. And my husband is just so thankful that I get the chance to do this, because he knows how long I've been playing music and how hard it's been juggling both. So says he's very delighted for me to be on when I'm on the, he's very supportive and helpful to me in all respects, and try to keep me being able to do what I do. So he's only disgruntled when he has to carry my 80-pound keyboard, like vocally disgruntled. He lets everybody know. So he needs a ribbon.
Oh, that feeling, yeah.
He needs a medal or something. But I do, tell him thank you all the time. So that's been really great. But I think the thing, just being able to never know who you're going to run into. Like, for instance, I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and happened upon, being able to play, do some things at the Ohio Club. And then Clyde Pound, who was like the lead arranger for Johnny Mathis and Mel Tremay, he's there as a piano player. It's like, he lives now in Hot Springs, was from LA and Hawaii. It's like, you just never know who's going to be in that market playing music. So it's just, just a little jazz club. So I
Little
think
jazz clubs, yeah, that's nice. Those are
yeah,
the
I
kind of
really enjoy
venues
it.
you pretty much work in, and those jazz clubs. And it, what region of the country?
I don't think there's a region that's excluded. I mean, I think that geographically, of course, I'm closer to clubs that are in Florida, and would like to play clubs in Atlanta, in Charlotte, Greenville, up and down that whole East Coast.
Oh yeah,
But then it's, there are so many in Texas. I mean, I don't think that there's an area that I would exclude. I've done a
good.
little work in Portland, in that section, Portland, Oregon, rather than
Oh
Portland, Maine.
wow. So you're
Yeah.
flying out for those, or you're not driving all that way?
No, no, no. That would be no. I don't think that I would be physically capable to do that.
Unless you got gigs all along the way, then it would make sense.
Right, right. And I recently did some things in Denver, and that was really delightful and
Oh, yeah.
golden. So I just appreciative for the ability to be in different areas and have people that I can stay with or whatever, that and kind of make it all work. That can also kind of help me get set up with equipment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that helps. Knowing the right people in those places
Right.
and
Unless there's a piano, yeah, already there, then I just show up and play. That's the best possible scenario. But the musicians, a lot of times the house musicians are great, or other pickup musicians are excellent, or I have an ability I enjoy playing solo and being able to enjoy being more intimate with the crowd that's there and letting them hear my interpretation of what a bass player would do. When you're playing solo piano, you have to cover the other instruments, whether you really whether that's your forte or not. And so that's a little bit more challenging to make sure that there's an essential element kind of represented rhythmically in all respects.
yeah. Are there certain pieces of equipment that you prefer, certain keyboards, certain pianos that you get comfortable with and you say, that's my baby?
I think I'm a Yamaha
Yeah.
artist. I'm not Yamaha endorsed, but I would like to be.
Yeah.
But because I've never had an experience with a Yamaha that's bad. Whether it's an acoustic upright, grand piano, or electric piano. Their keyboards are phenomenal, and just the true testament when you press a flute sound, which is probably my favorite auxiliary sound. They have breath control, and it's like you really feel like you're breathing into that instrument. The harder you play or the lighter you play or the inflection you give it, doesn't feel synthesized. So I feel like Yamaha really has done an excellent job. So I love their equipment. That's probably what I prefer to play.
Yeah, get that sponsorship. That would be awesome if you
That
could.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I currently in my room right here, I have a YC61 and a YC73 and a Yamaha upright. That was my father's piano
Oh,
when I was growing up.
oh yeah.
And a
That's
Hammond
nice.
and a Hammond SK2 to replicate a B3. So
Oh yeah, my gosh. You need to get out there and do it. Yeah, it's you invested enough with that company. I'm sure they can kick back
yeah,
a little bit towards you. That would be nice. Get some advertisement in magazines and stuff like that as well.
right. But their instruments are great, and I'm a kind of a heavy player at times because when you're playing a Professor Longhair, Big Chief tune, which is kind of well known at Mardi Gras or any of those different, you can't dance around that. You just like you're all in or all out. So those kind of tunes, I need an instrument that's not afraid of that level of volume. And so, but then again, I'm also play lighter tunes that require a little more dexterity or a little more control.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
You have worked with Bobby Rush. I had him here on this.
Oh, he's a
Yeah.
yeah. As a matter of fact, my father had too. Bobby was a big Malaco artist, and I think my father played on several Bobby Rush sessions. But yes, Bobby has collaborated some with play with I mentioned the Blue Monday All Stars, and we do a Blue Monday mission of featuring all sorts of artists throughout the country. And we are a house band, but we collaborate with others and we perform on festival stages and that sort of thing. And Bobby was gracious enough to come to one of our shows and closed it out because I don't think you can follow Bobby Rush.
Yeah, what an entertainer. You know, it makes that another one makes it look so easy.
Yeah, but yeah, following him is kind of not a good idea. So we needed him to close out what we needed, but he was great. I love musicians that can lead a band, even though you might never have played live, as a song that he happens to be doing. He just knows how to make eye contact. Like as a musician, my job is to not look down and make sure I'm playing the right notes. I've just got that's where your training has just got to take over. But it's watching the body language of the other musician and the lead, and they point. If they even glance at you,
Yeah.
you got to get ready to do something.
You've gotten some great gigs. Yeah, I'm sure. Gosh, what a legend. It just seems so sweet. Yeah, gosh.
Yeah,
Big one.
yeah, he's a lot of fun. But yeah, there have been some really amazing people to perform with. Ellis Hall is one of them, who was the lead of Tower of Power for many years. He's a blind artist, but so amazingly talented, and he could play every instrument that was invented. And I had a chance to perform and collaborate with him on occasion, and yeah, work
Mm, mm.
just
Yeah.
amazing.
So you've gone up to the Baton Rouge Blues Festival. What's that like, performing up with folks in the I believe northern part of the state?
Baton Rouge. Well, Baton Rouge is directly east of us, so yeah, we would still consider it part of the South. It's still considered in the good zone. Not that the North is the bad, but the zone of music talent is so rich, even through Baton Rouge corridor to New Orleans. So it didn't feel an awful lot different than the Lafayette vibe, but you've got a little more industry there, and the university, the LSU. So that I think the audience was really receptive, because they are not probably as overly saturated with the blues, and we added some kind of a gospel touch and a little bit of a jazz touch. They weren't overly saturated with that as we maybe can be in Lafayette. So it's nice to have crowds of people that seem to really understand what we're doing, and those performances. We have some amazing singers that join our stage, and just amazing cast of musicians
Mm.
that like when you look around you and you realize what everybody brings to the table, and that the synergy is just going to be great regardless of what song is picked. It's less about song selection, more about the artist selection on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those gigs were really fun, and that dovetailed right after or right before I think our Festival International performance, which was if there's a festival that you ever entertain attending in Lafayette, of course, Festival Acadians is very very well attended. But Festival International is amazing, because there are artists from all over the globe. But so it does kind of open up beyond just the Acadian French culture.
Yeah, it's got a huge influence there. I'm sure the cuisine is just like when they mix that with the music, it's so exotic and special.
Right. Yeah, the cuisine is just that's icing on the cake. So it's really hard to stay physically fit in South Louisiana.
It's gotta be a challenge. I was thinking of that because I spent some time in New Orleans, and the CVB just spoiled me. This was ages ago. And
Right.
wow, oh my gosh, I love that food. But some people don't like the spice and everything. I just love that. I could
I
see.
think it's an acquired taste, and yeah, and again, I'm from Mississippi, so it's a little bit of New Orleans-esque growing up in Jackson. But yeah, I was not really prepared for the level of spice in Louisiana until we got here. So now I know. And crawfish our series. I played at the Kentucky Derby with a very fun Zydeco blues band led by Dickie Carrier, and they brought truckloads of crawfish that were prepared by chefs for this event that we performed for. As soon as the last Derby race occurred, then we hit our first note. And that was quite a spectacle to see all of the people dressed in their Kentucky Derby finery trying to eat crawfish in a clean way. And then you had the Louisiana musicians like, no, we'll show you what to do. And I think our lead just took off and ate his share of crawfish very, very quickly.
Oh, that's
So
great. Yeah, you have the
yeah,
mint
those were
juleps
fun.
when you were up there and at the
Yeah, and those were fun. That was a fun, very talking about the Kentucky crowd was very receptive to what we were bringing to the table, and I was trying my hardest to channel my inner, John Cleary and Professor Longhair and others that have come way before me.
Oh, neat, neat. So, how much teaching are you doing? Have you been doing that all along, even when you were in finance? Were you always into teaching?
I did, yeah. Well, I mean, I've been teaching probably for the past 15 years. So yes, when I started teaching, probably the last 10 years when I was in banking on the side, I would teach on a Saturday or teach in the evening, whenever I had the time. But because I don't have a music degree, and that initially I thought that would have to preclude me from being able to teach, but I had such a desire to share what helped me, because I'm not the average piano student that only learned one way, and I'd learned so many different ways that I wanted to be able to share what worked for me in case there was that student that was a little out of the box in learning. And that's so usually those are the students that I would receive, the ones that wanted to learn a little bit more by ear training, improvisational training, and they would generally funnel them, or adults, for that same matter, some adults that really just had a desire. But adults are quite interesting and very hard to teach because they're very impatient, and
Sure.
they want it like right away. And it's
Yeah.
like that takes a lot of time to really start to get your muscle memory and your skills to catch up with where your head is in terms of what it wants to hear. So the adults are hard, but I find if there's something they really want to learn, they will do it. I had a gentleman that really wanted to learn a Joe Cocker tune from day one. He'd never had a music lesson in his life.
Huh.
And we went straight into the deep water, and it turned out he wanted to play it for his wife.
Oh, how neat.
And he did. So we learned it, but it had some interesting voicings at the beginning. I'm like, we can do this. And he would work at it and work at it. And he really, he got it. And so now he's playing music.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because it's a dream of a lot of us, being able to do that. It's what a gift. That's
Well, in the
fantastic.
ear aspect, there aren't a whole lot of textbooks that really explain it, but it really is all about hearing the different instruments that are playing in a song, finding where they are in the register of the piano and which ones are more important than the others, and how do you scale it, knowing you only have two hands and 2 feet.
Excellent. Excellent. So when shall we see your new album, your next recording? When is that slated to be
I,
released?
I would imagine probably the first of next year. Again, our session's scheduled for the end of October. So by the time that's mixed and mastered and produced, I'm thinking by January, if not a little bit sooner. So at least that's my goal, to have that for sure in hand, to be able to help share what Joyride is all about for me. And again, it's everything's a journey, but I really do feel that I'm writing better now than I could have in my former self 10 or 15 years ago, because I just hear things differently. So I think I did record, about 15 years ago songs, but I really, I don't know, I don't really feel that was exactly representative of the uninhibited way that I play today. So I'm all in and really enjoying honoring those musicians that have meant so much to me. Again, I point to Dave Grusin and David Benoit, and just certain songs that I would hear as a youngster, just be like unable to speak. It moved me so much musically. And then I would just scrounge to the piano to try to learn any part of that to recreate it. And so the fact that, Dave, the piece written on Golden Pond, I think that was the one I very first tried to really learn by ear on my own. and that's a pretty complicated piece, but it just spoke to me. And there's a song that I wrote called Rosie's Glide for my mom that about Jonathan Livingston Seagull kind of imagery, inspired probably by our Golden Pond. So I think the songs that mean something to you as a young child, as just stay with you. If they're meant to stay, if that's meant to be a sound that you're supposed to produce. Yeah.
That's really neat.
And I love, I've collaborated a lot on other people's recordings and sessions. And that's always been a delight too. I mean, they're just being able to help others show what's in their heart and have fun. So I've enjoyed a lot of that work here in this market too.
Good. Well, we hope to see you in Atlanta. That would be great if you can get up this way and get to the coast and go through the Carolinas. That would be really nice.
I really love that. I love Asheville. I love that whole corridor of the country. I think every time I get in your general vicinity, I just can breathe. And it's just the topography is great, but just the inspiration is great. I was recently able to go to the Black Hills on a different part in South Dakota, and felt that same kind of energy, and that was a real thrill. So I think nature is such a powerful healer. Even if you feel stressed, just find yourself out in nature and just observe and listen and be still for a little while, and then that always helps me write, helps me perform better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for dropping by, and we'll look for your new recording in early 2023, and hopefully we'll see you here in Atlanta, and hopefully a great future for all of us.
Well, I would love to, and hopefully there'll be some new Mardi Gras Essence opportunities to play in your neck of the woods in Atlanta and the coast. I know a lot of us really enjoy bringing that joy and spirit, to the rest of the country. So I'm looking forward to collaborating and bringing fellow Louisiana musicians with me that really can bring that fun musical vibe, which is so unique. You don't really hear it anywhere else, in the globe. And we do that here. So I'm looking forward to being able to share that.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much. It was delightful, and I hope to meet you in person someday soon.
Yes, hopefully you can come down to the Red Clay Theater or Eddie's Attic here. Those are great venues. We'll tell Leanne, your booker there.
I will. I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah, Red Clay Theater is closer to me. It's in Duluth, Georgia, which is a beautiful place.
Very, very good. I've only been Red Clay Theater. It's going down on my list.
Yeah, it was Eddie's Attic, which is very big in Decatur, and I've been there many times. They've had all kinds of acts there. Eddie split away from them, and he got this place called the Red Clay Theater Foundry. It's Duluth, Georgia.
Okay, I'm writing it down. I've got some really great friends that also live in Atlanta and Johns Creek and some other
right near me.
And I collaborate sometimes with musician D. Lucas, who is from Atlanta. Yeah, performs St. James Live, I think is the name of the place he does perform sometimes when he's in town.
Oh, great. Hope to see you in person. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a real pleasure. So thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Take care. Bye-bye.